Hey, so today we have made it up high to pastures of Zapleč and Zaprikraj. Those are places where alpine farming is still very much alive. The locals here are incredibly proud and honestly they've earned it. They are fighting every day to keep the tradition of high mountain farming alive in the world that is moving away from it. Here we'll also run into mountain bikers and hikers, but hikers prefer to take a turn to the left where we have a well-known mountain peak of Krnčica. But our destination for tonight is here on the right side, where we have up there the ridgeline of Krnčica. So we're gonna zigzag our way up there. I was actually here just a few days ago on Saturday, and today is Tuesday. I did a bit of scouting, and on that day the temperatures were quite high and the sun was frying me. I basically got sunburned on my neck, and I also didn't have a hat with me, so by the time I got home I got quite a nice headache. Now I'm looking where the trail starts, and basically the last time I just went uphill until I crossed it, and I will probably do the same thing today. Looks like I found the trail, and it's here leading up there, then it's gonna turn around and it's gonna take us up there, which looks like a saddle. A few more meters and we are going to be on top of the ridgeline. This is actually not our final location, because we will go on top of this mountain peak right there. Much better. Now let's go explore the ridgeline a bit further. Maybe we will find something interesting there. What you saw are the remains of bunkers, tunnels and other fortification which dates back to World War I. This whole area is known as Soča fronta or Isonzo front, and this whole area is basically soaked in heavy history and blood. Now let's talk about the plans for astrophotography for tonight. Basically, I will try to capture 3 different images. 2 are going to be quite similar. The first one is going to be a row of Yuki, which will rise right there, and I will try to capture that one with a 50mm lens. I mean, 50 is not the best focal length for the row of Yuki. It would be better to shoot it with the 85, but I don't have an 85mm lens. The next one is going to be a wide field image of the Milky Way core, and the final image is going to be the full Milky Way arch panorama, which, as I mentioned, will start there with the Milky Way core, and it's gonna arch across this beautiful landscape, and somewhere there is gonna end. And I will try to do things a little bit differently tonight if the wind is going to allow me. The thing is, I have always admired images taken by Eric Benedetti, who I consider to be OG of this stuff, Kevin Che, Egor Goryachev and John Rutter. And what those guys have in common is they like to shoot the Milky Way arch panoramas with 40 or 50mm lens. Now the whole thing is a bit more complex, and actually John has a really nice tutorial on his YouTube, which I'm gonna link down in the description of this video. And John, if you are watching this, I know you miss this. You know you miss this. So for the 15th time, just go out and shoot some astrophotography again. I will have to wait another hour, well, a bit less than an hour before Astro darkness starts. So while I'm waiting, I'm spending time in this, what it used to be a bunker, because the wind is actually quite strong at the moment. But I think I'll be able to capture everything, though it seems I'll have to move my tripod when I'll shoot the sky with the 50mm, because down there on the ridge I'm a bit too exposed, and here there is basically no wind. There we have towns in the distance and some stars in the sky. Okay, it's time we start imaging, and I'll first shoot the panorama for the full Milky Way arch, and for this I will use Viltrox 16mm lens. I know I said I'll shoot the sky with a 50, but I do not mind using wide-angle lens for the landscape. If I would use 50 for the landscape too, I would probably need around 7 business days to complete it with all the focus stacking, so it doesn't really matter to me. And after all, we will match the field of view of both panoramas. Now this was really painful because wind changed the direction, and my shelter is not useful anymore, so I'm getting a bit pessimistic that I'll be able to capture a full 50mm arch panorama tonight. Well, things did not end well the other night, and what it happened was, basically in the evening the wind was blowing from the west, and I was nicely protected by the ridgeline. But when it was time to start shooting the sky, basically at the start of Astro session, the wind changed direction and it was blowing from the north, and it was icy cold, and basically it just did not stop, and I simply could not take it anymore. So I guess tonight is going to be our second try, and as you can see behind me, today we actually have some nice snow up there. So I'll see you when I get back on top. We have made it, or I should say we have almost made it, because the thing is, the path ends here and we are only around 20 meters below the top, and those 20 meters are quite steep and slippery. Now, since I'm alone and quite far away from everything, I simply do not want to push my luck, so we're gonna stick to this position. But I'm still quite optimistic that we will get a nice images from here, or I should actually say an image, because the conditions are quite a mixed bag today. There is no wind, but we do have some clouds which should clear after midnight, and this means I'll probably have to cross off my list all the wide field images towards the Milky Way core, and the only thing I really want to capture tonight is the full Milky Way arch panorama. And we're gonna wait here till the end. If the wind picks up or the clouds roll in, we will try to capture something, even if I have to use the 16mm lens. Unfortunately, it does not look good for 50mm panorama tonight, because here on the ridge it's simply too windy, and those strong gusts of wind would be too much for tracking. So I'll probably use Viltrox 16mm lens, maybe Sigma 28, but I will probably go with 16, and I'll do some stacking. All those towns in the distance are quite far away. And look at the effect of light pollution, because the right side of this mountain range is so much brighter. But this is going to be really obvious on the final image. As you can see here, the Milky Way is already nicely aligning with the peaks in the distance. So I'll probably take a few shots here and there, and maybe I'll get a nice secondary image after all. Not a chance, not even close. Looks like our 50mm panorama will have to wait a bit, because wind tonight was again simply too strong, and I'm also worried that I'll have to throw away some exposures taken with the 16mm lens, because those wind gusts were at certain moments simply too strong. Even I lost a balance a few times. Unless my wife is watching. In this case, everything was perfect. Look, it wasn't the 50mm high resolution panorama I planned for. Nature completely shut that first attempt down, and I had no choice but to pack up and hike down. But if there is one thing that astrophotography teaches you, is that persistence pays off. Coming back up here for the second night meant pivoting and adapting to the conditions. Switching to the 16mm lens turned out to be the right call, and in the end, I'm really glad I didn't give up on the shot.